So the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out. Literally, I hear this thing in the background all the time, bro. It's not even set right. Can I not take a battery out? Oh my god. Okay. What was I saying? Yeah, initial thoughts, it's bad. It's not great. And looking at the rest of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies, this is definitely a downgrade for some of them. For those of you who don't know, I'm a big movie buff. I love movies, and the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre is one of my favorite horror movies, if not my favorite. It's been analyzed more times than I can count, because it's not just a horror movie. I'm leaning back because I'm getting serious here. It's not just a horror movie, okay? I mean, it is, and it's scary, but it's not. It's almost an art piece. Literally, you can go through. I can go through, and I probably will in this video. I don't know yet. And you can look at individual scenes, and it will look like a painting. Like, it's so good. A lot of horror movies nowadays, even back then, they weren't made to look good. I mean, they were, but they weren't. Like, obviously a movie is supposed to look good, but this one was kind of different. It was gritty. Everything was like had a massive coat of grain over it. Like, it was just everything was just gritty and dirty looking. The people looked sweaty. It was I don't know how to describe it. It's just really, really artistic the way they did it. Some of the shots they would line up would just look beautiful. Even if it was like one of the scariest parts of the movie, it would just look amazing, right? Or scariest. It's not. If you watch this movie after watching this video, like if you watch the original Chainsaw Massacre, right? If you watch it after watching this video, it's not what you think. I think the Mandela effect kind of comes into play a little bit, and we look back at this movie or old horror movies and we think, oh my god, it was like super gory. There's not, if there is gore, which there is, like there's blood and stuff, but it's not nearly as bad as what you think it is. Not even close. In fact, a lot of it got cut down because of the MPAA. It would have gotten an X rating back then. But it's not even a horror movie by today's standards. It's very, very slow paced. It's very much a psychological thriller, and it's a little bit of a black comedy if you've never watched it. Like, there's parts in it that are funny, and it feels out of place a little bit. I don't know. It's a classic. You gotta watch it. But this movie is Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022. Not the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and not even the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or Leatherface. They're not doing us a favor. It's very much following the Halloween kind of arc, like how they're kind of redoing it now. So this movie is a direct sequel to the original for the second time. It's confusing. I'm gonna here's a timeline before this movie came out. Oh! It's a lot. I should have planned this out beforehand. This is terrible. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 2003. I'm confusing myself. Let me go back a little bit. Cut. Okay. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is 1974. Texas Chainsaw 74 came out, okay? First one. And then Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 came out in 1986. That's a direct sequel to Texas Chainsaw Massacre 74. Leatherface, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 came out in 1990. It's the third one in the series that is a sequel to the first and the second Texas Chainsaw Massacres in 74 and 86, respectively. Then, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the Next Generation, came out in 1995, and it's the fourth one in the series, and so these four, right? But now, the third and the fourth one are considered to be their own separate tiny pocket universe because they changed the family name with almost no continuity. Yeah, so the third and the fourth one are no longer part of that same universe, but they are. Okay, anyways. Then, in 2003, there was a reboot of the entire thing, and it's just these two movies. So there's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, this is just Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Came out in 2003. And then, in 2006, they made a prequel to that reboot movie. So it's the second one in this series, but it's a prequel to that one. But these supposedly have nothing to do with the original. Then, in 2013, Texas Chainsaw 3D came out. And this is said to be a direct sequel to the original The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1974. So it's completely erasing the second, third, and fourth movies of the original series, and it's redoing it for the first second time. So Texas Chainsaw 3D comes out, and it's 2013, and it's a direct sequel to the first original The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1974. And then, in 2017, they made Leatherface, which is a prequel to the original The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1974. So now, basically, ignore Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, Leatherface, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the Next Generation in 1995, and ignore Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the beginning, Leatherface, or don't ignore Leatherface. Leatherface is the prequel to this movie. Ha! You see what I mean? It's confusing. It's confusing. Anyways, starting back. This new movie, titled Texas Chainsaw Massacre, is a now new direct sequel to The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1974. So, now you're going to erase Texas Chainsaw 3D because now that is no longer a thing anymore. Leatherface 2017. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1974. And now, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022. So now that's your new timeline. I think. We're just going to say it is because this is all way too confusing. Whatever. Okay. So, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022. Is it good? No. It's not good. But it is a little bit entertaining. I don't really remember much. I should have recorded this last night after I just watched it. I've only seen it once. So basically, here's the rundown of the movie. It goes, it's this group of people. I lost my train of thought. Nice. So it's these group of friends. 2 of them are cooks, I think. Basically, I don't remember any of these characters' names. They're probably the most forgettable Ooh, maybe not the most forgettable, but they're up there. They're up there in some of the most forgettable characters in horror movies ever. So you know how there's always been this trope of like stupid horror movie characters in movies? We were doing good for the past couple years with smart characters in a horror movie. And then this one came out and it's just kind of set us back all over again. It's really fallen into the stupid character in a horror movie trope, and I don't like it. These guys are... Actually, Halloween Kills had some of the dumbest people in it, but this one makes that movie look great. Like, it makes... Halloween Kills was a good movie. I'm getting off track here. Halloween Kills was a good movie. The characters were just dumb. And, but the characters in this one and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022 make those guys look like Einstein. I'll be right back. I'm gonna watch this movie again. Even though I started recording it and got this far. Yeah, I'll be right back. So it's 70 minutes later. Or 80, I guess. This movie is 86 minutes long. Or something like that. But only like 70 of it is like actual movie. The rest is just credits. So it's really short. My TV's still on. Let me turn that off. Hold on. But yeah, it's later. As you can tell, because it's darker. Because it's darker outside. That means time has passed. I don't know why I said that. Yeah, so I watched it again. It still isn't good. If anything, I'm like more disappointed now because I was writing down some of my thoughts while I was watching it again. Let me go over some of the reasons. I'm gonna go over some of the reasons as to why the first one is superior in every way. Everything? I don't know what to say here. It's just better in every way. The first one is superior to this in every way. First of all, budgets. Let's look at budgets here. I didn't even research any of this stuff beforehand, so this is kind of on me. So the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, all individual words, had a budget of $140,000. $140,000. That was the budget for the first movie. That is not a lot, even by that time standards, right? Like, think of the other slashers that came out around that time. They had double, if not triple or quadruple the amount that they had, right? So it was a small family, right? That's one of the reasons why I love it so much, is because everybody knew each other. It was a small group of people making a movie. They didn't know that it was going to be this huge blockbuster that it became. They didn't know it was going to be like such a cult classic, right? Whereas now, it's very much a cash grab. Granted, they did have some cute moments in there that like shouted out the originals and all the movies that came before, but it still isn't enough to save it. I don't know the budget for this movie, but looking at the graphics and all that stuff, it looks like it probably was like $5 million, $10 million, maybe more. I might be way off the mark. I don't even know. It's not released. So just ignore everything I just said. Anyways, this movie probably had a very high budget by today's standards, right? Back then, it was an unbelievably low budget for $140,000 to make a movie, right? It was just, they were making something not for money. They were doing it. It was a passion project. You know what I mean? Whereas this is obviously out to make money. So that's like one of the things that's keeping me from liking it. And there's nothing wrong with making something just to make money. Tons of movies do that and they become classics. Like, I'd say just about every Friday the 13th past the first one was made just to make money, you know? And some of them are received better than others and whatever. Point I'm making is this new movie was not a passion project. And again, that's not an issue, but whenever you're making something that is a direct sequel after all these years to the original, me, if I were making it, I would try to keep it in the same feel, keep it in the same kind of light, and under the same conditions as the first one. Maybe not budget-wise and safety-wise, right? But I would at least try to make it feel like the original. But it doesn't. It feels like Halloween. It feels like a 2022 remake, soft reboot of an original that came out 50 years ago. So let me talk to you guys about the movie. I'm gonna walk you through. I'm gonna walk you through everything that happened in the movie. Okay. Spoilers, obviously. So if you haven't watched it and you don't want it spoiled, then stop the video now, go watch it, and then come back, and then we can talk about it. Or if you don't really care about spoilers, but you haven't seen it, or you have seen it, then keep watching. Either way, come back and watch it if you don't want spoilers now. Okay. So the movie starts with a little voiceover recapping everything that happened in the first movie. We're introduced to our main characters. I don't like any of them, except for one, but she's only in the movie for like 5 minutes, and she doesn't really say anything either. One of them's Dante, and his wife. His wife is the one that I like, but again, I don't know anything about her besides the fact that she's Dante's wife. Or fiance or something. I think it is wife. And then two people in the back seat. There's Melody, who I'm going to just call Mel because that's what they call her. And Lisa. Yeah, I could not remember her name. Yeah, so Melody, or Mel, is the sister of Lisa, and they're in the back seat. Lisa, I don't like her. Literally, all she does in this movie is complain. The entire movie. Literally, the entirety of the movie, she is complaining and is a brat. And just, I don't like her. Okay? And the movie tries to get you to like her. It didn't work, in my opinion. I don't know. Maybe I'm heartless. Oh, well. I'm going to call Lisa Edgelord because she's trying to be this, like, edgy teen. For the rest of this video, I'm going to just call her Edgelord. Edgelord Lisa. Yeah, so they're sisters. They're in the backseat. And Mel and Dante are opening a restaurant. They're chefs, I guess. And they bought this little strip in a town called Harlow, Texas, right? In Texas. So they bought it for cheap, and they're going to sell a lot of the buildings to potential buyers. So that way they can have like their own little street in the middle of nowhere in Texas, because people will drive out to the middle of nowhere in Texas to go to their shops and their restaurants. Again, in the middle of nowhere in Texas. So it's not the best business plan. So they stop at a gas station, and they see this guy there named Richter. They think he's a psychopath because he drives a big truck and he has a pistol on the back of his hip, right? And Mel very loudly goes,
"Wow, he must have a small PP, because who carries a gun like that? They must be overcompensating and stuff." Like,
I get what they're trying to do here. It's supposed to be funny and quirky, and it's supposed to be speaking on today's climate, social climate and stuff, and be like, yeah, this guy sucks. He's got a gun control, woohoo. And it doesn't work. It makes me hate the characters because that's so mean. I don't care what your stance is, bro. You just judge this dude off the bat. And so he turns around and he's like, I got this gun here because hogs are an invasive species over here, right? And the only way to take care of an invasive species is to shoot them. Like, it makes sense. He's got a gun for not protection of himself, but protection of his property and stuff. I don't know. But he's like, I'm sorry you don't like the gun. And he's kind of nice about it. And then she goes, I've seen bigger. And I was like, okay, whatever. And then they drive off. So they drive off. And then they get out the car and they're like checking out the town that they bought, or the little strip of land that they bought with all the buildings and stuff. And then they see Richter again. And turns out Richter's the contractor who's going to be like renovating some of the buildings for him. So they're like, oh crap, it's this guy. Like the same guy that they just saw at the gas station, right? He seems like an okay guy. And then Richter walks away, and then the gang spots a Confederate flag hanging from a building. And Dante's like, oh, come on, we got to take that down. Buyers aren't going to want to buy that building now because there's an old raggedy Confederate flag hanging from it, which doesn't make sense. Like, if a buyer sees that, to their knowledge, no one is there, you know? Like, this whole town, to their knowledge, is empty. So they can, it's not like there's still racist people living there. So they can, like, take the flag down. It's a big problem for Dante right now. So he goes inside to take the flag down. He goes up to the second story. He sticks his hand out the window. He can't reach the flag, and he's like, crap, okay, whatever. I'll have someone else take it down in a little bit, I guess. Dante and Mel start leaving the house, and then they run into an old lady there. And I don't remember the old lady's name. But she looked really weird, and her upper lip was huge. So I'm going to just call her Big Lip. Lady Big Lip, I guess. So they tell her that she's not supposed to be there because they have the deed to this land. And she should have been gone like a while ago because the bank reclaimed the property, right? And she's like, nah, you're wrong. And they're like, nah, you're wrong. Then she goes, out of nowhere, she goes, is this about my flag? And she goes, I've taken care of kids like you many times throughout the years. I have no problem with... She says, I have no problem with people like you. So Dante's like, screw this. I'm done. I'm going to get the cops. So he leaves. This is an orphanage, by the way. This whole building is an orphanage. It's an old orphanage. And she was like the owner of the orphanage, obviously. So Dante leaves to go get the cops, and Mel stays there, and the old lady's talking to Mel. And the old lady tells Mel, so Dante leaves to go get the cops, and Mel stays with Big Lips. Yeah, Mel stays with Lady Big Lip. Lady Big Lip tells Mel that the flag was her great-grandfather's, and that's why she still has it. And she says all of this to Mel standing like 6 inches in front of her face. So it's super weird, and it's super uncomfortable to watch. Especially since everybody is like super dirty looking. And you can literally see how greasy their heads are and stuff. It's just gross. It reminded me of that old lady from It too. I don't think I like old people that much. Mel starts telling Lady Big Lip that she needs to leave because she doesn't have ownership of the house anymore, of the orphanage anymore. And Lady Big Lip is like, nah, I've literally, it's got sorted out, it's fine. And Mel's like, no, it's not fine. You need to leave. And there's plenty of elderly shelters for you to go to. And Lady Big Lip is like, I'm not going to no elderly home. And at that point, Leatherface shows up at the top of the stairs. Now, this part confuses me a lot. At this point, whenever Leatherface shows up at the top of the stairs, she's like, go back upstairs, baby. It's all good. It's fine. And Mel, she tells Mel and is like, this is one of my kids. He's one of the oldest kids that I've had, or one of the last kids that I've had at the orphanage. And there's a picture on the wall over the stairs that shows, it shows the class, I guess, or the group that they had at the time in 1975. And Leatherface is on top of the picture in 1975. Okay, but in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1974, it takes place in 1974. This is why it's confusing to me. So the original movie takes place in 1974, which is the year it came out. Based off of this picture right there, it means that Leatherface has been at this orphanage since 1975, right? Which if you look up how old Leatherface is in the original, they say that he's like 27. I'm going to just say he's 25 just cuz. However, he's in an orphanage in the 2022 movie. In order for him to have been put in an orphanage after the events of the original, he would have had to been 16 or younger. But that doesn't make sense because then that means that it was a little 15-year-old Leatherface that we saw in the original. And I don't buy that for a second, okay? Either that means that he was 15 in the original or it means that there was a 25-year-old man put in an orphanage with a bunch of other kids. And neither one makes any sense, okay? But it gets even weirder. Because if you look up the age of Leatherface in the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022, they say that Leatherface is 60. So then if you do the math there, then that means Leatherface would have been 13 years old in the original. Okay. Yeah, so I don't really buy that. Yeah, it's confusing. Anyways, the cops show up in record time. Literally like 3 minutes they show up. And escort Lady Big Lip out. And she starts hyperventilating and she can't breathe and stuff. And she's freaking out because she's being kicked out of her house and stuff. So then Leatherface walks down the stairs and carries her out to the car. And the cops just let him. And they're like, oh, it's her boy. He's got her. But like, so you guys know who he is? Do you like, it's like they know that he's Leatherface. The cops load Lady Big Lip and Leatherface up in the car and they're going to take them to the hospital. And Mel is having guilt. She's feeling guilty because she's like, oh my God, we're the reason she's having to go to the hospital right now. We need to do something to help. I'm going to go with them. And Dante's like, no, I need you here. So then Dante's hot wife is like, I'll go. You guys can stay here. And Dante's like, okay. So they start driving off and Mel's little sister, Edgelord, she starts fighting her, She starts having a fight, She starts a fight with Mel out of nowhere and is like, if you stay here, then I'm going back home with Dad. I'm not staying in Texas. Which, like, wouldn't you guys have talked about this before you drove out to Texas? Like, you clearly knew they were coming here to open a restaurant and to move to Texas. So you shouldn't be acting like they just came up with this on the spot. It's just another reason why I don't like her. Anyways, but whatever. So they start auctioning buildings off. And while they're doing this, Lady Big Lip dies in the car. But before she dies, she tells Leatherface, don't go in my room. That becomes important later. Anyways, she dies, and the cop that was in the back seat with them, this is his reaction. Sheriff, I think she croaked. That was his reaction right there. Her adopted son is literally holding her in his arms right now. She just died in his arms. That's like a little insensitive. So Leatherface starts freaking out, trying to get her oxygen, while the cop in the back is just kind of staring at him the whole time. Eventually, the cop grabs Leatherface's hand, trying to be like, yo, chill. So then Leatherface grabs his hand and then snaps his arm in half and then stabs the cop in the neck with his own bones. Bro, literally, this is one of the coolest kills I have ever seen in a horror movie or in a movie, period. That is so cool, and it's a shame that it was wasted on this movie. I watched that for the first time, and even the second time, my reaction was, oh! Oh! That's so gnarly, bro. That is so gnarly. It's so cool. So while the cop is like sitting there choking on his own blood, he grabs his gun and he points it up, or he goes to point it at Leatherface, but then Leatherface does that kind of deal, and then he shoots, and then it shoots the cop in the front seat. Which, okay, they drive into a field and crash into a giant tractor. So, yeah, so they crash. So back into town, Edgelord goes over to the racist guy's garage. He goes to Richter's garage and talks to him for a little bit while the auction is still going on. And I do not like this person at all. Edgelord is so rude at times. She literally asked Richter. She's like, "So, Richter, why are you such a nihilist? Like, you just blast diesel into the atmosphere, so you clearly don't care about anything." Which, like, okay, slow down here, sister. You've literally done nothing but complain for the entire movie, and you're gonna do all this. You're gonna say all this to this guy. Like, slow down on the shame game, okay? You don't really have much room to talk. Anyways, Richter tells her that he's a Texan and doesn't like people telling him what to do, right? So while he's talking, she sees a freaking assault rifle on Richter's table, which, like, doesn't everyone just keep their guns laying around everywhere, right? So he goes, "Have you ever shot one before?" And she's like, "No, but I've been shot at." And he's like, "Oh, where?" And she goes, "Stonebrook High." So we learned that she was in a school shooting. She was the victim of a school shooting, and she got shot in the chest. And this starts a series of flashbacks throughout the movie, like short little flashbacks of her during the school shooting. Yeah, so I feel like they were trying to do this whole we need gun control thing. It doesn't really fit in this movie because, again, they, like, use a gun at the end of the movie to take down Leatherface. Like, these same characters do. So it kind of goes back on everything that they had just told us. Mel gets a text from Hot Wife that says that Lady Big Lip died. And Mel feels guilty, but Dante is just kind of like, "Oh, man, that sucks." So Mel gets mad and is like, "I'm done. Me and my edgy sister are leaving. We're out of here." So she leaves to go get Edgelord so they can leave, right? Then we cut back to Hot Wife. She wakes up in the middle of the crash, or not middle of the crash. She wakes up after the crash, and Leatherface isn't in the car. And so she starts looking around. She looks in the mirror, and she looks outside, and she sees Leatherface towards the back of the car, cutting off Big Lip's face. So she starts looking around for what to do, and then she grabs the little radio walkie-talkie thing, and she starts talking to whoever's at the end of that. She's like, "Oh my God, he's cutting her face off. I need help." Then Leatherface ends up cutting her face off, and he holds it up, and I like that shot of him doing that. That was a cool shot of him holding his new face up. That was kind of cool. So then suddenly the cop in the driver's seat wakes up and sees that he's, like, dying. And so Hot Wife is like, "Oh my God, shh, quiet." He doesn't listen because he's, like, dying. Leatherface hears him, walks up to the window. Hot Wife plays dead, and then Leatherface kills him with a real quick, with a little 1-2 like that, with a big hammer kind of thing. I don't know what it was. And so then Leatherface walks away, and Hot Wife tries to do something. I don't know what she was trying to do. She kind of crawls into the cop's lap and looks out the other window for some reason. And then Leatherface appears on the other side where she just was and grabs her, pulls her over, stabs her, and slices her stomach open, right? And then he kind of pets her hair. He kind of pets her and moans a little bit because I guess he likes her. I don't know. It's kind of weird. So Leatherface finishes his new mask and then he walks away, and I really like these two shots a lot. These are like two of the only cool shots in the entire movie. So then it goes back. Richter approaches Dante. No. Richter approaches Dante and he's like, "I heard you killed Big Lip." And Dante's like, "No, I didn't." And Richter's like, "I'm not giving you the keys to this place until I see that you actually have the deed to this building that you just kicked this old lady out of, right?" And Dante's like, "Okay, bet." Mel's like, "We got the deed?" And then Dante's like, "Yeah, of course I've got it." And then, of course, he doesn't have it. This stupid man forgot to bring the deed with them to the auction for the orphanage that they just kicked an old lady out of. So he forgot the deed. Mel's like, "Oh my God, what are we gonna do?" And then they're like, "Okay, well, wait. we forgot the deed, but all we need to do is just prove to Richter that she doesn't have the deed, right? Because if we have it, then she doesn't. So they go into their house after they said all that, and they start looking around the orphanage for the deed, or the lack of the deed, right? Dante's looking downstairs in the kitchen and stuff for some reason. Mel goes upstairs and goes into the old lady's room to look in there. And then, she finds the deed. But wait, so this means one of two things, and both are stupid. This could mean that Dante bought this whole strip, including the house, and he's telling the truth, and he actually did forget the deed of the for the house back in his office, right? Somehow the bank ended up stealing the deed back from him without him knowing, and got it back to the old lady at her house. Or it could mean that Dante did get the deed because the bank just printed a new one and gave it to Dante, and they just let Big Lip keep her old deed, which seems kind of dumb. Or it could mean that Dante just bought the whole strip except for Big Lip's house and was just an idiot who got pissed off because he saw her Confederate flag and just assumed that he had ownership of this building too. Either way, it's very dumb and it doesn't make much sense. But whatever. So Mel gets overwhelmed with guilt and she hears something and then she goes, Dante? Dante? And then Dante hears something and he goes to look for it. And then he's in the kitchen and he looks and sees Leatherface's reflection in a little pot hanging from this thing. Which Leatherface must be a track star because he was just in a wreck out in the middle of nowhere and made it back here in like 5 minutes. Leatherface grabs him and slices him in the face with a cleaver, and it doesn't show it too much because they want to save it for the reveal later. So Dante's down and he's bleeding a lot. Like he should have definitely died from blood loss. So Mel sees Dante on the floor, and just before Leatherface turns around and sees her, she's gone. She ran and hid in the closet. So Leatherface has no clue that she's here with them, right? So while she's hiding, Leatherface sits down in front of a mirror and he starts putting on makeup, which was like a nice little nod to the originals. But he leaves and Mel stops hiding to try and wave to all the people outside through the window. But it starts raining and they can't see her because they all went to go get back on the bus to continue their little party on the bus after they finish the auction, right? Mel hears Leatherface coming back in the room and she dives under the bed. She's hiding under the bed. And Leatherface starts hitting the wall. As Leatherface is hitting the wall with his mallet, Dante wakes up after he just got sliced in the face. So Dante wakes up and he starts walking outside. Yeah, so Dante's walking. And then Richter, he sees Dante walking and he's like, "Hey buddy, what are you doing? Why were you back in our house again?" And he turns Dante around and it shows his face. It is so gross. It's so gnarly, dude. But it's also stupid because, like, Richter and the little bank lady that leave to go see Dante right there, they show, like, no reaction to what they just saw. This man's jaw is, like, hanging. And they're just kind of like, oh! You know? Like, I don't know what I'd be doing, but it definitely wouldn't just be like, oh, you know what I mean? Rick tells the bank lady to get on the bus and call the cops and tell everybody on the bus to stay on the bus. And he leaves with his pistol, and he leaves to go take on whoever did this, right? So he walks in to the house with his pistol, and while he's walking in, Leatherface finishes hitting the wall, and he breaks the wall open to get his chainsaw. His chainsaw was in Lady Big Lip's room's wall. Like, it was in the wall. So earlier, the Lady Big Lip, in the car before she died, tells Leatherface, "Don't go in my room." Which implies that she knows that he wants the chainsaw. Which also implies that she knows that he is Leatherface and that he killed a bunch of people the year before she took him in, right? He walks upstairs towards the room that Leatherface and Mel are hiding in, and sees in a reflection where Leatherface is hiding, right? She walks in, and they start fighting with their hands, even though he just had a pistol. I guess Leatherface was just too strong and knocked it out of his hand or something. I don't know. Then Leatherface hits Richter in the knee and breaks his leg with a mallet. And it's so gross and so cool looking. Oh! This movie sucks, but it's got some really, really cool kills. And again, it's really disappointing that they're wasted on this movie. So it cuts back to Sally. I forgot to say, Sally got called by one of the people at the gas station because they heard Hot Wife's call before she died, and they were like, "Oh no, we need to call somebody." So they call Sally because apparently she's a sheriff now, which is so stupid. You're telling me that this lady from the original, right here, this dumb little hippie girl, becomes this. This becomes this. This makes no sense. What is this? It cuts back to Sally. Sally finds where the car crash was, right? And she's like looking around and stuff, and she finds Lady Big Lip's body. And she's like sitting there without a face. And then Sally goes all weird, like she goes, "I fear no evil, I fear no evil." And it's super weird. It was really weird. So back at the bus, Edgelord is wanting to leave and go find her sister. She's like, "I need to go find Mel." And the bank lady that saw Dante was like, "No, you need to stay on the bus." But she's like, "Why?" And the bank lady won't tell her why, which, like, you could tell them something. You could be like, "Dante's hurt. We need to stay here and wait for the police." Literally anything. Anything to keep them satisfied to where they'll stay put on the bus. But nah, that's all she does. She just goes, "No, you can't." Which obviously she's going to try to leave. And the bus driver is so stupid. He's just like, "Oh, sure, kid, go." Whatever. So Edgelord leaves to go find Mel. Mel starts trying to escape, and she like sneaks to the little hallway and jumps over the banister onto the stairs. And then as the camera pans up, you see Leatherface is at the top of the stairs. So he is super quick and nimble for such a big guy. So he throws his mallet at her, right? And it hits her in the chest, and it sends her flying down the stairs and makes her fall through the floor. So now she's under the house. And so he starts coming at her with a chainsaw, and so she starts trying to crawl away underneath the house. And this is like a cool shot. He's walking behind her with a chainsaw, and the chainsaw is going through the floorboards and stuff, and she's crawling, trying to escape from it. It was cool. But I also saw this shot in the trailer, so like, I don't know. To be honest, it looked cooler in the trailer. Eventually, Mel escapes with her sister, and Leatherface is coming after them, sort of. They get on the bus, and this stupid bus driver is asleep, and they're like, "Drive!" And he's just like, "Oh, okay." And he starts to drive off, but he's going so slow. I get it's a bus, but it's like a newer looking bus. And I get there's a lot of people on it, but come on, bro, you can at least gun it. Like, this man's driving off like he just picked him up. Like it's a school field trip or something. Like, it's so slow and meticulous. That's the word I want. Leatherface cuts the bus, I guess. Like, he hits the bus with the chainsaw. And the bus stops. And then a bus driver, this stupid bus driver, opens the door while all these people are screaming at him not to go, right? He opens the door to go check out what happened. Leatherface cuts his head off screen, and then throws the head onto the bus. Throws the head into the bus. So they see that he just cut off his head. So the bank lady sees Leatherface coming onto the bus. I don't know bank lady's name, so I'm just calling her bank lady. She was introduced towards the start of the movie, but I don't. So Leatherface gets onto the bus, and instead of screaming, Bank Lady just does this. She just kind of does that. So the rest of the party bus people see Leatherface and instantly pull out their phones. And it's kind of funny, but it's dumb at the same time. One guy at the front was like, bro, you try anything and you're getting canceled, bro. Like, I chuckled, but it's still super dumb. And I never thought that I would see Leatherface get threatened with being canceled by a bunch of millennials. Nothing in this movie feels like it's a sequel to the first movie. And that's what's sad about it. Anyways, Leatherface starts killing everyone. Everyone. Most of the kills are done out of sight and are kind of dumb, but there are some that are super cool looking. Like this guy gets cut through the shoulder. There's a lot of blood. And the edgy sister has a flashback to the school shooting, and I still don't care. I know I'm ripping into this movie a lot, but this is probably one of my favorite scenes. This is probably my favorite sequence in this movie. Like this whole bus scene is pretty cool. So everyone's dying, and Mel and Edgelord hide in the bathroom. While they're hiding, the bank lady gets sawed in half, and then she falls to the ground. So Mel and Edgelord, they're in the bathroom, and they look up, and they see there's an escape hatch in the roof of the bathroom. And this movie copies the Here's Johnny scene from The Shining, just like every other kind of bad horror movie does. It's literally like an exact replica. Leatherface cuts a hole in the door, sticks his hand in, or sticks his head like in the hole, and is like, kind of looks at him like, ugh, right? And then he sticks his hand in and reaches for the doorknob to open the door. And just like in The Shining, it's in a bathroom. And just like in The Shining, she grabs a sharp thing and stabs him. And so that gives them time to escape. So Mel climbs out of the window with Edgelord, and they start running away, right? As they're running away, Sally pulls up. The sheriff lady that was the original final girl in the original, right? She tells them to get in the back of the car. And they do. And Sally is so stupid in this movie. And I hate it. Literally, this is another reason why I hate this movie, right? So it's not the original actress from the original. She sadly passed away. I don't remember when, but she passed away. So they hired a lookalike, I guess, of the original actress and had her play Sally in this movie. But they wasted her. Like, if it were me, I would have just chosen someone else. If you really wanted to bring back someone from the original movie, which I get a lot of them are dead, like in the movie, not in real life. Well, maybe real life too, but a lot of the characters from the original movie are dead. But you don't even have to bring back. There was other ways you could have paid homage to the original. You know what I mean? Sally tells the kids, she's like, get in the back. They're saying like, go drive, and Sally's like, I've been waiting for this for 50 years. And they're like, okay, drive. And she's like, I'm gonna kill him tonight. And they're like, okay, that's cool. Can you drive first so we can get away? And she's like, no, he's after you two. So you're staying here until I kill him. Bro. What? That is so stupid. That's so dumb, bro. Whatever. So Sally leaves them alone in the car, and they're screaming in the car, like, calling her an idiot and stuff, which she is. She's being so stupid. So she goes after Leatherface with a shotgun. And she goes into the house, and she goes into the house to look for Leatherface. And she finds him in his room, and she's like, do you remember me? Say you remember me. Say my name. Right? And Leatherface is just kind of like, he's just kind of like, who are you? I don't really care about you. Then he just walks past her, and she just stands there in shock. Like, I hate this so much. This does not have. If this was real, you wouldn't be so overcome with vengeance that you would shoot him. You would shoot him in a non-lethal place if you really wanted to talk to them. shoot him in a non-lethal place, and then talk to him. But she's just like, tell me you know my name. Say my name. And then he just walks past her, and she's just like, so Leatherface goes past her. Sally stays up in the room, just standing there, I guess. Leatherface breaks open the window to the car where the girls are, grabs one of their legs, and then Sally walks up with a shotgun and shoots him, and is like, because she's a freaking lunatic in this movie, and I hate what they did to her. Anyways, she's like, you remember me now? And then Leatherface runs away into an alley, and Sally kind of walks after him. She opens the door, and she tells the girls to get out of there for some reason. It's like, they were there because of you in the first place, and now you're whatever. So she starts going after Leatherface after he just hid in an alley. Leatherface starts charging after her, literally running with a chainsaw after Sally. And she shoots, misses, and then they start fighting. And then she stabs him in the stomach with a knife, and then he stabs her in the stomach with a freaking chainsaw, and then lifts her up into the air. And I hate this so much, bro. So Mel gets into the front seat and drives over to Leatherface to go to run him over. While she's driving, Leatherface tosses Sally into the trash, just like the writers did to this character, right? So he throws his chainsaw at the car. Mel misses. He somehow dodges this car, and the car crashes into Richter's garage from earlier in the movie, right? Mel's got a pipe in her leg and can't move, and then and she tells her sister, Edgelord, she's like, no, I can't move. You gotta go. Save yourself. She literally says this. She goes, you're the strongest person I know. You can do anything. So you can run away? Like, you're so strong. I believe in you so much. I believe in you so much. I know that you have what it takes to run and hide. Like, that's so funny. You're so strong. You're so strong, and I believe in you so much. I believe that you have what it takes to run and hide like a coward. I believe that you can do that. Like, that's so funny to say to someone. So she does. She runs away, and Leatherface walks up to the car, and Mel apologizes to Leatherface, and it's kind of sweet. Right as Leatherface is about to kill her, Lila, the edgelord, goes, "Hey, this would have been funny if it wasn't so infuriating to me. Like, if it was anybody else, like someone that we didn't know or something, it would have been kind of funny. But whatever. So he charges after Lila, and so he charges after her, and right before she dies, Sally, who is somehow still alive, shoots Leatherface with a shotgun from like 50 feet away. So Leatherface runs away and hides in a theater, and then Lila starts walking over to the car to get her sister out, I guess. And then Sally stops her and gives her the shotgun and is like, go get him. And instead of going to get her sister out so they can at least have better odds, she walks into the theater where the Leatherface ran with a shotgun to try to fight this hoe on her own. Mel's pissed off and she tries pulling the pipe out of her leg on her own. She does. Lila's walking around the theater looking for Leatherface. So she comes up on this giant puddle in the theater and hears Leatherface cranking up his chainsaw. Then she tries to walk around and see him and stuff, and she sees the chainsaw sitting on the ground. So she's like, oh no. Then Leatherface jumps out of the shadows and tackles Lila, and they dive into this giant puddle in the theater. So now they're in the water. And somehow Lila got away from Leatherface, and so she's climbing out of the water. And just before she can get away, Leatherface jumps out of the water again, and then throws his chainsaw, and it slides across the ground, and it cuts Lila's ankle, right? And so she's about to get got. And then Mel jumps on Leatherface's back while we get another flashback sequence to the school shooting from Lila. And it's like in this weird slow-mo shot. I don't like it at all. Leatherface pushes Mel off of him and is about to die. But just before Leatherface kills her, there's such a back and forth, bro. It's ridiculous. I feel like I've said that like 10 times now. Like you think they're about to die. Oh, never mind. It's a trick. They're about to die. Oh, never mind. They're not about to die. They're about to die. Oh, never mind. You know what I mean? Like, it's ridiculous. So Lila shoots Leatherface 2 times with the shotgun and then runs out of ammo and is just sitting there shooting blanks, right? So you're like, uh-oh. He's not going to die. It's the same thing that just happened earlier. She's out of ammo. It's not loaded, whatever, right? But then Mel picks up the chainsaw. So Mel grabs Leatherface's chainsaw and uppercuts Leatherface with a chainsaw, which sends him flying back into the water. And this makes me mad too. Why would you hit him with a chainsaw instead of like, you know, anywhere. Go through him with the, do anything else other than punch him in the chin with a whatever. So Mel goes, "Are you okay?" And just like I expected her to say, her edgy sister is like, "No." And then they laugh about it. Now it's the morning. They're in the car about to leave, and they sit there laughing about everything that just happened. And then Leatherface pulls a page out of Friday the 13th and suddenly appears as like the little twist ending, pulls Mel out of the car just as the car was driving away in autopilot, and he cuts her head off with a chainsaw while Lila is screaming in the distance as the car drives off. And as she's driving off, Leatherface does his little dancey dance with his chainsaw. Final thoughts. Or everything I wanted to say, but I couldn't get through appropriately, I guess. I think this movie should just be a standalone kind of thing. It's not good. I think if you want this movie to be good, it needed to either be like 15 minutes shorter or 30 minutes longer. Like, this movie is a short movie. And once the kills start, it is like so fast paced, it's ridiculous. But again, it does not feel like a direct sequel to the original at all. Literally, the only similarities is that there's a chainsaw and there's a massacre in Texas. That's it. That's it. It doesn't have the same feel, the same energy behind it. It's gory, but like the first one wasn't gory. It was just suspenseful. It was a good movie. It was slow paced. Not a lot of action. It was a psychological thriller. There's not a lot of that happening here. Another thing it's missing, the family. There's one of the scariest things about the original was that it wasn't just Leatherface. It was a whole family of cannibals that killed people and then ate them, right? That was the scariest thing about it. Seeing Sally wake up in an iconic scene from the original. Sally wakes up tied down to a chair at the end of a table, right? Where everybody is gathered around in this family, sitting there mocking her and about to eat people in front of her. That was literally the biggest scene in that entire movie. And it showcased everything that was great about it. You got the dark humor that takes place as they're like making fun of her and stuff while she's sitting there crying and screaming. The whole family aspect. It's a family of cannibals, right? And one of the... I don't even know what I'm trying to say. The first movie, you kind of feel for Leatherface a little bit. He gets made fun of by his other family members, right? Because he's like the runt of the litter, even though he does all the heavy work for them. He's not the mastermind. So it doesn't make sense that Leatherface seems a lot smarter than everybody else in this movie. Granted, nobody's smart in this movie, but whatever. I want to say that we should just forget about this movie and let them do another one. You know what I mean? So that way they can do better the next time. If they do want to do another direct sequel to the original, which I think they shouldn't. If you want to make another Texas Chainsaw movie, redo the whole thing. Redo the whole thing and try to make it the same way that they made the original. If you really want to remake the original, which you don't really need to, since the original was so good, but if you really want to remake the original, do it shot for shot, or at least the iconic shots, remake those exactly the same way, but change it up a little bit. You know what I mean? You don't have to sit there and try anything new because it's a Texas Chainsaw movie. We know the story. You don't need to sit here and try anything new because that takes away from what they did originally. You know what I mean? You don't have to sit here and include this whole subplot of gun violence or this whole subplot of PTSD or whatever. I mean, I guess you can. It'd be cool, but this movie didn't have enough time to explore any of that. They were just like, oh, she was in a school shooting. Bam. One thing. This dude, they're opening a restaurant in the middle of nowhere. Bam. Leatherface, guess what? Last 50 years, he was in an orphanage. Okay, I guess I needed to know that. Like, it was just all this stuff piled on in a 72-minute movie. Like, it's not enough time to explore any of the themes that you started in the movie. They definitely shouldn't have brought Sally back. That was so dumb. You brought a character back from the original that wasn't even the original actress, right? So you shouldn't have brought her back anyways if you can't have the original actress. But anyways, you did it, and then you killed her and threw her in the garbage. Am I the only one to see something like that? Is so messed up that you brought back one of the first final girls in horror movies. You brought her back and then you killed her and threw her in the trash. Whatever. Okay. Yeah, this movie, watch it if you want. If you stuck around till the end, I know this is a long video. I might split it up into 2 parts. I don't know. We'll see after I cut it down. Watch it if you want to. Definitely watch the original if you haven't seen it already. If you made it this far in the video, I thank you. If you're seeing this on TikTok, thank you. Like, follow, subscribe, comment. Please comment. No one comments on my videos, and it's very sad. Like, people will text me about them and stuff. Don't text me about my videos. Comment. Makes me feel better. Makes me feel like I actually have fans that aren't just my friends. Like, comment on the video. But anyways, that's the video. Be good people. Donate blood if you can. Thanks for watching. And peace.